60 Minutes Overtime.
Under this house?
This week on 60 Minutes, we spoke with several Israeli hostages who were recently released by Hamas.
This is your house?
This is my house.
Keith and Aviva Siegel were kidnapped by Hamas militants who invaded their kibbutz, Kfar Aza, on October 7th.
They murdered and they kidnapped and they also set afire the houses.
The couple were driven into Gaza to a narrow tunnel like this.
We were 7 total in this very small, cramped niche. You couldn't stand up, no room to walk around, only if we needed to use the toilet. We were allowed to get out of this niche.
The guards weren't down there with you?
The first day they were with us for a few hours and then they left us.
Wow.
And we said, listen, if we need help, what do we do? And they said, come to the stairs and shout for us and we'll come.
Aviva and Keith spent 51 days in captivity together, moving to different locations. And then one day they were separated.
We were forced to separate. I was happy and relieved, hoping that she was actually going to be released and taken home.
In November 2023, Aviva was released during a brief ceasefire.
Actually, when Aviva was released, I saw it on television, and the mobs there that were screaming and yelling and very hostile. I wasn't sure Aviva made it home alive. Seriously, and this was very stressful.
Aviva anxiously waited for the day Keith would be released. Most of that time, she didn't know if he was alive or dead. But over 1 year later, as part of a ceasefire agreement, he was released in a bizarre ceremony.
I was told ahead of time that I would be taken on stage, that I should wave to the audience, and I should say thank you.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you to Hamas.
And you did that?
I waved to the audience. I did not say thank you.
Do you remember what you were feeling?
I was feeling anxious that maybe something would happen and I would not be released in the end.
While Aviva and Keith were held hostage, they befriended 2 Israeli soldiers, Agam Berger and Liri Elbag, who were kidnapped from their base in Nahal Oz on October 7th. What's that bond like when you're held captive with someone experiencing the terror, the constant terror, together?
A very strong bond. Being able to look after each other physically or mentally, emotionally, psychologically, being supportive, having somebody to share thoughts, worries, concern, fear.
We were there to see a reunion with Agam and a catch-up with Liri on video chat. Agam, Viva, and Keith told us how they got through their horrific ordeal together.
You know, this beautiful, gorgeous girl came, and she didn't stop smiling even though they were just so mean to us all the time.
Even then, you were smiling?
She's just such a smiler, and her smiles helped so much. And both of us, we were scared all the time. So we used to just like hold our hands like this
Yes.
and look at each other in so much fear, but we were together.
I heard that you got depressed, and Aviva says that
Yeah.
Liri and Agam pulled you out of it.
Yeah.
They did.
They said that they worried about him. He was three days, he was just lying. He didn't want to even sit and talk to us. They just said that they worried about him and that he must come back to himself. Because he used to make them laugh. And he used to joke about things with them.
Most of the time, Keith cheer us up. And yes.
When it was tough for one of us, all the others helped. There was a very, very intense bombing. Agam was especially afraid, and if it was okay, if I were to held her hand, and I held her hand, and She helped me and I helped her.
Yes.
Many released hostages and a large majority of Israelis support a ceasefire. But the Israeli government decided to resume fighting in Gaza, breaking a carefully negotiated ceasefire agreement with Hamas. As of this weekend, reports indicate that a potential renewed ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is being discussed. Keith and Aviva Siegel think negotiation should be a top priority to get the remaining hostages back home.
I urge President Trump, I urge the administration, I urge the Israeli government, and I urge the mediating countries to all get together, get back to negotiations, and to get the hostages back. And it's urgent. And every day that this goes on is just more and more suffering and more possible death and psychological devastation.